Forget anti-aging supplements. If you're over 60, they're not fixing what's actually breaking you down. Aging isn't about missing nutrients, it's about neglected daily habits, and I'll show you exactly which ones matter. There's a quiet lesson I learned late in my career, one that didn't come from a journal or a drug trial, but from watching people who aged well while others around them slowly disappeared into dependency. Shigeaki Hinohara spoke about this long before longevity became fashionable. He believed long life was not built through medical heroics, not through aggressive treatments or miracle pills, but through something far more uncomfortable and far more powerful: daily self-respect. The way you treat your body when no one is watching. The small decisions you repeat so often they feel invisible. That philosophy is deeply unfashionable today, and that's precisely why it matters. After 60, I see the same pattern over and over again. Good people, smart people, disciplined people, yet they are exhausted, weaker than they were 5 years ago, less steady on their feet. They're swallowing more supplements than food, chasing powders, capsules, and promises, wondering why nothing seems to work. The frustration is real. You do what you're told. You take what's recommended. And still, your body feels like it's quietly slipping away. Nobody tells you this clearly, but pills can't compensate for biological neglect. They never have, and they never will. Think of aging like maintaining a house. You can buy the best paint in the world, the most expensive fixtures, the most advanced smart devices, but if the foundation is cracking, if the beams are rotting, none of that matters. Supplements are paint. Habits are the foundation. When the basics are ignored long enough, no product can save the structure. This is the uncomfortable truth many industries avoid, because there's no subscription model for personal responsibility. That's why I respect the modern framework laid out by Peter Attia, not because it's trendy, but because it's brutally honest. Longevity is not about lab numbers in isolation. It's about function. It's about resilience. It's about recovery. Can you get up off the floor? Can your body handle stress and return to balance? Can your brain adapt, connect, and stay clear under pressure? These are the questions that determine your future far more accurately than any blood test. Real anti-aging is deeply boring. It doesn't feel exciting. It doesn't promise transformation in 7 days. But it protects 4 pillars that quietly decide everything after 60: strength and physical function, metabolic health, restorative sleep, and brain and social resilience. When these pillars hold, people remain independent. When they fail, life slowly becomes managed by others, appointments, assistants, limitations creeping in one by one. What I want you to understand is this: aging well is not reserved for the genetically lucky or the obsessively disciplined. It's built through simple, repeatable habits that tell your biology you are worth maintaining. Over the rest of this conversation, I'm going to walk you through 12 of those habits, grouped by these 4 pillars. They are not glamorous, they are not expensive, but they slow aging more reliably than any supplement ever will. And the difference they make determines whether your later years are merely survived or fully lived. Weakness has a way of sneaking in quietly. It rarely announces itself as a problem at first. It shows up as hesitation at the bottom of the stairs, a moment of instability stepping off a curb, a subtle reliance on handrails that weren't needed before. Many people interpret this as normal aging, something unavoidable, something to be tolerated. Others believe that staying active, especially walking, should be enough to hold the line. The body, however, operates by different rules. Movement alone does not preserve strength, and time is not neutral. Without resistance, the body adapts downward. What almost no one explains clearly is that muscle is not just there to move you from place to place. It is a metabolic and endocrine organ, deeply involved in blood sugar control, inflammation regulation, and overall resilience. As muscle tissue shrinks with age, the consequences ripple outward. Strength loss accelerates frailty, increases the likelihood of falls, worsens insulin resistance, and quietly fuels chronic inflammation. This is not cosmetic decline. It is systemic. The body becomes less capable of absorbing stress, whether that stress is physical, metabolic, or emotional. A useful way to understand this is to think of muscle as the body's shock absorber. When it's strong and responsive, daily stresses are buffered and dispersed. When it's thin and weak, every impact travels directly into joints, bones, and organs. Small challenges become damaging events. Recovery takes longer. Confidence erodes. The world starts to feel less forgiving, not because it has changed, but because the body's internal protection system has thinned. I once followed the progress of a woman named Janet, 72 years old, diligent and consistent in her routines. She walked every morning without fail and prided herself on never missing a day. Yet stairs became a negotiation. Getting out of low chairs required momentum and planning. Nothing dramatic had happened, no injury, no diagnosis, just a gradual loss of strength that walking alone could not replace. Her experience is far more common than most people realize. The habits that protect this first pillar are unremarkable on the surface, which is exactly why they work. Repeated transitions from sitting to standing preserve the muscles most responsible for independence. Regular resistance, whether through bands, weights, or body weight, signals to the body that strength is still required for survival. Daily balance work maintains the neurological coordination that keeps movement confident and controlled. Together, these actions preserve the body that carries you through every other part of life. Without them, even the healthiest intentions rest on an increasingly fragile frame. Energy loss after 60 is often misunderstood. It's blamed on age, on slowing down, on just getting older, when in reality it reflects a deeper biological shift that unfolds quietly over decades. Many people begin eating less, believing restraint alone will preserve health, yet the foods that remain become increasingly processed and nutritionally thin. The result is a body that is undernourished but overstimulated, running on unstable fuel. Weight may not change much at first, but vitality does. Fatigue becomes a constant companion. Inflammation simmers in the background. As the years pass, insulin sensitivity naturally declines, and the body becomes less efficient at handling blood sugar. At the same time, the gradual loss of muscle worsens this process, because muscle is one of the primary tissues responsible for clearing glucose from the bloodstream. When muscle disappears, blood sugar lingers longer than it should, and inflammatory signals rise. This combination quietly strains the heart, the brain, and the vascular system, even in people who believe they are eating light or carefully. A helpful image here is a campfire. When it's built properly, with enough fuel and oxygen, it burns clean and steady, providing warmth and light. When it's starved or smothered, it produces smoke. The fire still burns, but inefficiently, leaving residue behind. Metabolism behaves the same way. Without adequate protein, real food, and gentle movement, energy production becomes smoky. Fat accumulates where it shouldn't. Hormones lose their rhythm. The body feels heavy instead of resilient. I remember a man named Robert, 68, who described his meals as small and disciplined. He avoided indulgence, skipped breakfast, and relied on packaged foods marketed as healthy. Despite this, his energy collapsed by mid-afternoon, and fat slowly gathered around his abdomen. His body wasn't failing due to excess. It was struggling due to imbalance. The signals it received each day told it to conserve, to defend, to hold on. The habits that protect metabolic health restore clarity to these signals. Adequate protein spaced across the day supports muscle and stabilizes blood sugar. Meals built from whole foods provide the micronutrients and fats that regulate inflammation and hormone production. Gentle movement after eating helps glucose move into muscle rather than remaining in circulation. Together, these patterns reduce internal noise, allowing the metabolic system to burn cleanly again. When metabolism is supported this way, energy returns not as a surge, but as a steady, dependable current that carries the rest of the body forward. Sleep changes its character as the years pass. What once felt automatic becomes fragile, easily disrupted, and increasingly undervalued. Many people accept this shift as an unavoidable feature of aging, something to be endured rather than addressed. Nights become lighter, shorter, and more fragmented, while days grow heavier and less focused. The connection between the two is rarely stated plainly. The body does not weaken simply because time has passed. It weakens because restoration is incomplete, repeated night after night, until the deficit becomes the norm. The human body relies on sleep as its primary repair state. This is not a metaphorical idea, but a measurable biological process. During deep sleep, growth hormone is released, directing tissues to rebuild and strengthen. Immune activity is recalibrated, clearing damaged cells and preparing defenses for the next day. The brain sorts and stabilizes memory, while metabolic waste is flushed through specialized pathways that only activate during sleep. When these processes are interrupted, they do not resume the next morning. They are postponed, and postponed work accumulates. With age, the brain becomes more sensitive to disruption. Circadian rhythm, the internal clock that governs sleep and wake cycles, loses some of its resilience. Hormone signaling becomes less forgiving. Even small irregularities in sleep timing or light exposure can shift the entire rhythm out of alignment. This is why older adults often feel the impact of poor sleep more acutely than they did in midlife. A restless night no longer leads to mild fatigue. It leads to weakness, slower reaction time, mood changes, and a sense that the body is operating with reduced capacity. It helps to think of sleep as the body's overnight maintenance operation. Every system depends on this window. Muscles repair microscopic damage, nerves restore sensitivity, and inflammatory signals are quieted. When the maintenance crew works a full shift, the body starts the next day structurally sound and metabolically stable. When the shift is shortened or chaotic, essential tasks are left unfinished. At first, the consequences are subtle. Over time, the backlog grows. Tissues become less responsive. Recovery from exercise slows. The immune system loses precision. The brain feels less clear, not because it is failing, but because it has not been fully serviced. Many older adults focus on nutrition and movement, yet underestimate how much those efforts depend on sleep to be effective. Protein cannot rebuild muscle without growth hormone signaling. Physical activity cannot strengthen bone or coordination if the nervous system remains inflamed. Cognitive engagement loses its protective effect when memory consolidation is impaired. Sleep is the platform on which every other health-supporting behavior rests. Without it, even the most disciplined routines deliver diminishing returns. I once followed a woman in her mid-70s who took great care with her daily habits. She ate balanced meals, stayed socially engaged, and walked regularly. Still, she described waking each morning feeling as though she had not truly rested. Her sleep schedule shifted daily. Dinner was often late. Mornings were spent indoors, under artificial light. There was no single dramatic problem, just a quiet misalignment between her biology and her environment. Over time, she noticed increasing muscle weakness, mental fog, and a sense of emotional fragility. These were not separate issues. They were expressions of a system that rarely reached full repair. Light plays a central role in this process. Morning daylight is the strongest signal the brain receives to set its internal clock. Without it, sleep timing drifts, melatonin release is delayed, and nighttime rest becomes shallow. Food timing matters as well. Late eating keeps metabolic and digestive systems active when they should be winding down, interfering with hormone patterns that support deep sleep. Consistency, rather than duration alone, becomes increasingly important with age. The body responds best when it can anticipate rest and prepare for it. Poor sleep also amplifies inflammation. Inflammatory markers rise when sleep is fragmented, creating a feedback loop that further disrupts rest. Pain sensitivity increases. Joint stiffness worsens. The brain becomes more reactive to stress. Over time, this inflammatory state accelerates many of the conditions people associate with aging, including cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, and metabolic dysfunction. None of this happens overnight. It unfolds quietly, often unnoticed, until function noticeably declines. What is often missed is that better sleep does not require heroic effort. It requires alignment. When sleep and wake times remain stable, the brain relearns its rhythm. When mornings include natural light, hormonal signaling regains clarity. When nights are free from late digestion, the body enters repair mode more efficiently. These adjustments restore sleep's depth and continuity, allowing repair systems to operate as designed. Sleep does not simply make you feel better the next day. It determines how well your body holds together over time. Strength, balance, memory, and immune resilience all depend on the quality of your nights. When sleep is protected, the body regains its ability to repair itself. When it is neglected, aging accelerates silently. The difference between the two is not willpower or luck. It is whether the body is given the conditions it needs to restore itself, consistently and completely. The decline of the mind rarely begins with forgetfulness. It begins with narrowing, fewer conversations, fewer reasons to engage with the world. Over time, days become repetitive, and the brain adapts by conserving energy. This shift is often mistaken for a purely emotional change, when in reality, it reflects biology responding to reduced stimulation. The brain, like every other organ, remodels itself based on how it is used. Social connection plays a direct physiological role in this process. Human interaction lowers cortisol, the stress hormone that accelerates inflammation and disrupts memory formation. When connection fades, cortisol rises, and the brain operates in a state of low-grade threat. This state does not feel dramatic at first. It shows up as irritability, mental fatigue, or loss of motivation. Over time, it erodes attention, memory, and emotional balance. Loneliness is not just experienced psychologically, it is registered by the nervous system. Purpose matters just as much. The brain allocates resources toward what it believes is necessary for survival. When days lack structure or meaning, neural networks associated with planning, motivation, and adaptability weaken. This is not laziness or apathy, it is efficiency. The brain is reducing investment where it no longer sees demand. When purpose is present, even in simple forms, the brain remains engaged and responsive. Mental challenge supports this engagement. Reading, learning, and problem-solving require coordination across multiple brain regions, preserving flexibility and clarity. These activities do more than occupy time. They stimulate neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and maintain function. This capacity does not disappear with age, but it does require stimulation to remain active. I think of Paul, 79, who stayed mentally sharp through consistent social involvement and meaningful roles in his community. His memory was not flawless, but his engagement was steady. His brain had reasons to stay alert. When connection, challenge, and purpose remain present, the mind retains its role as a reliable guide. Aging still occurs, but it unfolds with greater clarity, stability, and dignity. Near the end of his life, Shigeki Hinohara returned to a simple truth. Aging well is built quietly through daily care, not shortcuts. The modern fixation on supplements reflects a desire for control, yet the body responds to patterns, not pills. This aligns with Peter Attia, who emphasizes that longevity is measured by capability, resilience, and recovery, not years alone. Strength, metabolic stability, sleep, and connection protect dignity by preserving function. Aging is revised daily through ordinary habits, and when those habits respect biology, life remains livable and independent far longer.